Daniel, his wife, called from the entryway, and the door slammed shut. He was leaving. Drinking the last of his coffee at his desk, Daniel started up his computer. Since he'd started working remotely, nearly all his mornings kicked off like this. He and his wife Amelia lived together in a cozy studio apartment on the city's fringes. A few months back, Amelia was also assigned to work from home. Given that both their jobs involved lots of phone calls, they decided to take turns heading to a vacant SPSP where they had fashioned separate workstations. Today, it was Amelia's turn to occupy that remote office. This arrangement helped them avoid getting on each other's nerves, but it wasn't an overnight decision. There was a lot of built-up tension and heated arguments at first. Eventually, though, they found a middle ground. A few friends of theirs had already split up because of the strain of remote work and constant bickering, but Amelia and Daniel were determined not to follow suit. They still saw one another in the evenings and during weekends, much like old times, having shared several years together. They rented a cozy studio while diligently saving up for the down payment. It hadn't always been easy, but they managed to make it work. However, as their relationship changed, so did their priorities. Daniel found himself working from home more often. After lengthy conversations with clients, he took a moment to relax in his office, then headed to the kitchen to make tea. He noticed the tea bags were missing, but thought there might still be some loose leaf tea left. He thought about this as he reached for the top cabinet where their supplies were stored. As he swung open the cabinet door, something caught his eye: a box peeking out from behind the teens. It hadn't been there. Before he nudged the jar sideways, Daniel retrieved a small velvet box. It seemed like Amelia had decided to get it. He thought about getting a head start on New Year's Eve, and he smiled. This year, because of family matters, Daniel had to go on a trip to the Far East. Amelia decided to stay behind, choosing not to spent a lot of money on expensive New Eve tickets. She saved up for a down payment. Instead, her husband is here. They agreed to catch up with old friends and be her time with delight. Furthermore, Daniel wanted to spare his wife from the burdens and troubles of his family, preferring that she wait for him patiently at home. Given these circumstances, the couple, they decided to send their New Year's greetings in advance, as they wouldn't be able to do so on the actual eve. Daniel was surprised to find a pair of gleaming cufflinks in the box. He had not expected such a gift, as he preferred more comfortable and practical clothing. Daniel closed the box and returned it to the cupboard, reflecting on the gift throughout the day. Daniel noticed Amelia's preference for sophisticated men's suits and suggested he adopt a more refined style. As New Year's Eve approached, they made preparations together, setting the table, listening to their favorite music, and engaging in pleasant conversation. Amelia smiled and suggested taking a vacation from work to bring excitement to your life. Daniel expressed gratitude to his wife and handed her a gift. However, he couldn't help but wonder about the box he found in the closet. Since his wife didn't have any male friends or brothers, Daniel decided to wait before asking Amelia about it. Daniel was preparing for a trip to visit his relatives when his mother called with unexpected news. She informed him that everything was fine and the issue could be resolved without his presence. She also informed him that he could return the ticket because he needed the money. Daniel was relieved to hear this news because his family situation had been resolved. Daniel was determined to find out who the intended recipient of the gift was. He made it his mission to uncover her plans for the 31st, which Amelia said she was going to celebrate with her closest friends. Daniel couldn't shake off the worst-case scenarios in his mind, but he clung to a shred of optimism. If it was all a misunderstanding, he'd simply join in the festivities. However, he had a nagging feeling that his wife was pulling the wool over. Daniel packed his bags and stepped out, asking Amelia not to bother with the after saying goodbye. She started tidying up. Daniel rented a modest room in a hotel and settled in, feeling nervous and on edge. Everything would come to a head on December 31st, a date that would reveal everything. It was a day of celebration, but Daniel's spirits were far from jubilant. He put on some inconspicuous clothes and made his way to his house. Settled in at a cafe across the street, and anxiously awaited Amelia. As the evening approached, she emerged from the entrance looking nice and with an exquisite hairstyle. She glanced at her watch from time to time as she patiently awaited a cab. When the vehicle arrived, Daniel quickly emerged from the cafe and got into the car. He went to the cafe and got into his car, which was parked nearby. He followed the cab, which eventually pulled up outside a fancy restaurant in Theody City Center. He parked and looked in the side mirror, watching his wife get out of the car and walk into the restaurant in a luxurious fur coat. She entered the establishment. After a brief wait, Daniel emerged from his car and followed in the same direction. He paused by the window of the restaurant, straining to catch a glimpse of his wife. Finally, he beheld Amelia seated at a table holding a glass and sharing hearty laughter. Then Daniel looked away for a moment, and something struck him. His wife was sitting with another man in an elegant suit. The face seemed vaguely familiar. The man thought for a moment and suddenly remembered it was her former boyfriend Maverick, whom she had dated before when she and Daniel first met. She'd recently ended things with him while Daniel was still in shock. She was clearly recalling every detail, while Amelia on the other side of the window revealed a luxurious velvet box. Her face was alight with joy, and she extended it toward the man beside her. This made Daniel want to kiss his wife with tenderness, but he was overcome with AG. Instead, he suddenly appeared at their table in the restaurant, making his way over to his wife. Amelia heard the heavy footsteps and looked up at Daniel. Her eyes were wide in amazement and rage as she tried to get up from her seat, but her husband had already raced in and slapped Maverick alongside her. Daniel expressed his desire to never see her again, leaving the other customers stunned. The waitstaff pleaded with him to leave, but Daniel refused. He remembered Amelia and learned that Maverick had broken up with her to pursue a relationship with a former GI. In the new year, Daniel initiated a divorce. Amelia and Maverick's relationship was strained, and she attempted to reach out to Daniel for forgiveness, but he refused. The estranged spouses began the new year on separate paths.